Hello and welcome to the Art and Business and Murals Podcast, and I'm your host, Sarah Scully. And today I am sharing with you my successes and failures in 2025. Now, let me tell you, I have tried to record this episode, not even joking, like 12 times. I either keep getting interrupted, or I keep getting emotional, or I keep like oversharing, like to my therapist style oversharing. Like, or I get confuddled, like I just get messed up and then I can't get the words out. So I don't know what is going on. Maybe I shouldn't put this episode out there. I'm going to give this one last go. If it works and I can get through to the end, then obviously you're listening to this. If not, I don't know what I'm going to do for this week's episode. Who knows? I'll figure something out. I always do. It's so important to look back on what you've been working on, what you've done, what you have really enjoyed, what projects you enjoyed, what you did not enjoy, the clients you did not enjoy working with. It's so important to reflect on this before you start doing your goal setting for the time ahead. So if you're wanting to goal set for the year ahead, I would be looking back on the past year and figuring out what worked, what didn't work to inform what goals you start moving towards and really reflect. Don't just go, I did this, I did this, I did this. I didn't win that job. I didn't win that job. I didn't like that client. Really think into it. What did you enjoy about that project? Who did you really enjoy working with? You might have enjoyed working at schools. You might not have liked teachers, but you really enjoyed the students. So really break down the projects that you've been working on to really give yourself some clarity when it comes to your goal setting moving forward. And the other reason why I wanted to share with you my successes and failures for 2025 is because I haven't really spoken about much of this in general. I haven't been on social media very much at all this year. I shut down the podcast for 3 months, and I feel like the podcast episodes have been very like, this is how you do this. Step one, step two, step three. This is what happened to me. Okay, and like I haven't really shared what's been going on this year, so I thought I might pop it all into one episode. So for those of you that love podcasts and you like just instructional podcasts, like this is how you do it, and you don't like all the stories behind it, then you don't have to listen to this episode. Or if you're like me and you love hearing all the nitty-gritty behind the scenes stuff, then this episode is for you. Um, because obviously on social media, I'm not going to be putting up like stuff necessarily about my personal life or like any of my mental health battles or any of that. That's the stuff on Instagram, the stuff on Facebook. That's how I get new work in. So I don't particularly want to be sharing all the negative things. It's marketing, and I am marketing myself. So I'm going to share it today. And don't worry, it's not like intensely deep stuff. It's just been a bloody tough year. And I want to share with you what has worked and what hasn't from the business side of things. And to inform some of my decisions, I will share with you some of the personal side. Um, but if you do notice that some of these stories or some of these lessons that I've had to learn are triggering things in you, then please go and see your GP if you trust your GP. Or there's also the Lifeline support line, which is 13 11 14. They also have a mobile number that you can text if you prefer to communicate with someone from Lifeline via text. Jump onto their website and it's up on their front page. Or if you're in the United States, which I know that half of you are, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, you can call that, or you can text 988 as well if you need to talk to someone. I do not necessarily talk about suicide or anything like that, but I just want you as a listener to feel supported in whatever you are going through, because I know that 2025 has been a tough year. And it's not just for me. Like, I'm not into all that hippie stuff or astrology or moons and stars and things like that. But one of my friends was talking to me about it, and he was saying that this 2025 is like the year of people who are ready to make the changes and like ascend to like a better life. This is the year that they do it, and it's going to be hard. There's going to be a lot of shedding of old habits and routines and possessions and things like that, and moving forward into 2026, which will be like your new life. Some people will have that. Some people will just happily sit in their muck and stay in their muck and throw their muck at other people. And so I was like, okay, yeah, rightio. And then I also heard somewhere that it's obviously the year of the snake in the Chinese New Year, and it's seen as like a lot of people like shed their skins like the snakes do. Ooh, so creepy. But in my head, I have like this vision now that I've done almost completed 2025 of like me being like this, like one of those big whopping pythons that you see, like a big fat snake at like the front of the conga line, like trying to shimmy my way out of like this really thick leather, like straight jacket. Like I'm just trying to get like my straight jacket skin off. That's what this year feels like. I'm like a fat snake shimmying off a straight jacket. Oh gosh. I did dub this year the year of the slug. If you are part of my mailing list, you would have seen last week my December newsletter came out and the whole title was 2025, Year of the Slug, because that has been my overall feeling as a human. I feel like I'm like moving at slug pace. I have like slug energy. Like that is how I started the year. But great news is I don't feel like I'm finishing the year off as a slug. I feel like I'm now like a freshly slimed snake that's gotten rid of its, or that is getting rid of its skin. Still going, still a bit of work to go. So this year started off with 6 weeks of holiday over the summer break. In 2024, I had finished off the year with $48,000 worth of mural work that I had managed to cram into 6 weeks. So I was pumping out these murals at the end of 2024. So that was just over a year. No, this was exactly a year ago, pumping out this work. And I did like a massive big $20,000 mural project. And then I had a whole bunch of smaller projects scattered around that. And I was absolutely exhausted, like physically, mentally, emotionally, because the massive big $20,000 project I did in a community that often is really critical of any work that I do. So not only did I do the project, but then I had a lot of backlash from the project, which is never fun. So I had to deal with that too. And so I came into my summer holidays going, okay, I got 6 weeks off. Financially, I'm doing okay because I knew that I was coming into the new year working on a $25,000 mural job. So financially, I had no stress, which was strange. A good feeling. Generally don't have that feeling during January, February. Normally there's a little bit of financial stress being the quietest months, but it was nice to have the 6 weeks off and to just focus on what I needed to focus on. So we didn't really do much during the holidays. We go on little trips here and there, but I was primarily focused on getting some house renovations done. So I knew that I had to move out of my studio, which was on my father-in-law's property, by the end of 2025. And so if I wanted to do the house renovations to build a studio, I needed to build another room for my husband to put his gym in. It's like a big Tetris situation at our house. Like we don't have the biggest house, but we do have a nice big downstairs area that I wanted to extend and make a gigantic studio, but it was filled with my husband's gym and work stuff and all his junk. I probably shouldn't say that, but if it weren't for me, he would definitely be a hoarder. Anyways, so I had to build him a room to put all his stuff in. So I built a gym, started building a gym out the front of the house, and I also started building a shed as well because we needed to put all our shed stuff, which was dumped downstairs. So for all of December, half of January, I was framing this stuff out and YouTubing how to do it. I also rested a fair bit too. Like I could feel that I was so exhausted. So my energy levels were like non-existent. So I was very much a slug building these buildings, but also resting whenever I could. Um, but it just, no matter how much I rested, I just could not get my energy up again. I knew that coming back into the new year. So at the beginning of 2025, I had booked a speaking gig at an art conference down in Melbourne, and I was super excited about it. But at the last second, it got cancelled, and look, there was nothing you can do about it. Like, no amount of tantrums could make the conference go ahead. I was so excited to see my friends. I was so excited to spend some time in Melbourne and travel. I love travel. Um, but no, that didn't happen, which was, kind of very similar to a lot of things that happened throughout 2025. There was a lot of cancellations. So that was done. No problems. Wasn't going to Melbourne. I just keep on keeping on. So I started prepping, came back to work, started prepping for this $25,000 mural that I had to paint. And as it started getting closer, I started thinking, I don't have the energy for this. I haven't regained my energy. Usually I start off the year going, yeah, let's goal set, let's plan, let's schedule, let's rearrange the routines, let's get some new habits, let's get some systems in place, let's do this, I can do it, it's gonna be great, let's be better. This year, I was like, oh no. I did not goal set. I did no vision board. I did not clean anything. I did not plan anything. I did not batch my social content. I just completely ignored social media altogether. I only posted when I genuinely had to put something out into the world. Like I just had nothing, which is hard because, I'm an art coach. And so I was like trying to muster all my energy to encourage all the other artists to goal set and to, update their routines and habits and systems. And you can do it, guys. Let's do it. Let's get these goals set. Let's break them down. And then I'd get off the calls and I'd be like, nope, not for me. So I felt like a giant fraud, which is a horrible feeling. But lucky I'm a good cheerleader. Anyway, $25,000 mural job coming up. Realized I didn't have the energy to do this job myself, so I worked collaboratively with another artist, Jane Maracad, who is like the most lovely human ever. And if you're low in energy, he's the one you want to be standing next to because he's just so calm. And so he's always like, yeah, would you get it done? It's fine. It'll get done. It always gets done. I feel like he's the yin to my crazy yang. So I will always happily work on projects with him. So best idea ever. Worked on it together during a heat wave. Got it done. Yes. So I'm still managing to get work done, even hard work. So knowing that I had to get out of my shipping container and get this house renovation going, I was so overwhelmed. Like I can't even tell you. I had multiple house projects on the go. So I still hadn't finished the shed, still hadn't finished the gym. Those were both half done. We got a bulldozer in to bulldoze the front. I don't know why, because it looks like a construction zone now and because I haven't managed to touch it, and it's been like a year later. But anyways, that's that half project done, and then I had like another half project over here, and then another project I'd started over here. I got the supplies, but hadn't actually started it, and like it was overwhelm was like the word that I had, and home was like my space. Like this is like my safe space, but didn't feel safe. Like it felt like mayhem. And the studio, I would go to the studio, which is that 40-foot converted shipping container on the front of my father-in-law's property. My studio is my favorite place in the world. But every time I went there, I felt overwhelmed and ill and detached because I knew that I had to leave that space and I was sad. And so I spent less time there. And I'd come home and work from home and I'd feel overwhelmed here at home too because I didn't know how to get this build started. I wasn't going to do it, that's for sure. It's too big for me. So I had to get a builder, I had to get approvals, I had to get drafts, I had to get all these things that I didn't know how to do. Like I'm an adult and I have a house, but I'd never done anything like this before. And I was kind of like stuck and overwhelmed and had low energy. So I didn't want to do it. So I spent a lot of time in bed working. Like I can't even tell you how many days I've been in bed working this year. And if you're watching this episode on YouTube, you'll also notice I'm in bed recording this. Another reason why I've been in bed a lot this year is because my cat Lily has been unwell. So her favorite place is in bed. And so I'd go do school drop off, drop my son at school, and then come back and hop into bed with my laptop on my lap and Lily curled up next to me. And I just wanted to keep an eye on her because I was constantly worried about her. I spent so much energy and tears on Lily. I didn't realize how much energy was being put into her. And also, my bed is my safe space. So I was lacking in so much energy and I felt out of control and overwhelmed a lot. At least I was in my safe space while I could still get work done on the computer. But I had no sparkle. I had no excitement for the year, no goal setting. And then uh, my annual burnout for the year rolled around at Easter time when it always does. It starts getting colder and the days start getting a little bit darker earlier and they get shorter. And I just shut down. Like I just, I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't eating well. I just wasn't functioning at all. I knew something wasn't right. And I'm just so thankful that one of the artists in our group coaching was talking about perimenopause and how she was going through hormone replacement therapy. And, she came onto one of the calls and she just looked flat one day. And I was like, are you doing okay? And she was just like, no, perimenopausal. This is what's happening. These are the symptoms. This is what I'm doing about it. The hormones haven't kicked in. Just flat today. And I was like, oh, wait, that's how I feel. Maybe I'm perimenopausal. And what made me really angry after researching it and realizing, yes, Sarah, you're perimenopausal, is that no one had told me about it. Like my mom hadn't told me, my nana hadn't told me. No one had told me. My therapist hadn't told me. No one had told me. Why was no one talking about this? Because to me, it was like life altering. I felt like I was losing my business. I felt like I was losing my family. I felt like I was losing I felt like none of my shit was together. It was like the end of my life. That's what it felt. I felt like I was losing my mind. I thought that I was getting early onset dementia because my brain was not functioning the way that it usually does. So I found a wonderful GP. My current GP, I very much disliked. He made me feel really shit about myself a lot of the time, and that's not how GPs are meant to make you feel. So I went on the search. I found a perimenopausal expert GP who was close, and she has been a godsend because she's the first GP in a very long time where I've actually felt like she listened, which was lovely. So she put me on estrogen and progesterone. Um, I came to terms with the fact that I was not running on all cylinders, and I probably wouldn't for a fair while. I did start losing my mind. My energy levels were so depleted and I could not replenish them. And I was snapping at everyone. Emotionally, I was all over the place. Like I would start crying uncontrollably for weird reasons. Like I would just snap in the middle. And I was so scared to run workshops. I was so scared to go into schools. I was so scared to see friends in case I bit their head off. I could not control myself. I would be losing days. So I would, schedule out my work for the week and then I'd sit down to do the work and I would just cry and cry and cry and stare at a wall and then cry some more. And then the laptop would be in front of me the whole time. But then all of a sudden I realized it's 3 o'clock and I hadn't done anything. So I would be losing whole days. So I would have to then reduce my work for the week. And I was so scared that I was going to lose clients. I was so scared I was going to lose my business. I felt like I was losing gigs because I wasn't chasing up projects or chasing up clients. So what I decided to do was cull everything back with my business and my life. So anything that wasn't 100% necessary, I would just not do. So that's why the podcast got shut down for 3 months. I stopped doing that. I stopped posting on social media. I stopped watching the news because I realized that I was getting emotional watching the news and I was finishing off the news cycle feeling flat. So my son encouraged me to do a no murder July, and that meant no news, no watching murder shows, anything that had any murder in it, even like Murders in the Building, which is like a comedy. I was not allowed to watch. So I spent the month watching Golden Girls, which was wonderful. So I had to cut all this weird stuff out of my life, stuff that wasn't serving me. I didn't send out my newsletter a couple months this year, which is really unlike me. I'm very like, must do this now. Um, I didn't follow up jobs. I didn't follow up clients. I didn't return phone calls. I didn't reply to messages. So for any of you listening, there's a few of you I know who've sent me wonderful messages and I just don't reply. All the things that as an artist coach I'd tell the artist to do, I was not doing myself. Um, I was still doing the client work that hit my inbox. So I was still doing, you know, a large mural gig up in Cairns and workshops that had been booked and the residency that I signed up for the year. I was still teaching at QUT. I still was doing coaching because I felt like whenever I coach, I feel energized. Even though it's around people, I'm still getting energized at the same time. And I felt like little sparks of motivation from that. Not enough to do anything, but it was coming back. And then, oh no, and then Lily passed away. So when Lily passed, she was almost 18 years old. And I know she's a cat. And unless you have animals in your life, you're probably like, yeah, and so she passed and move on. But it wasn't like that. I couldn't just move on because she was part of every day of my life for 18 years almost. So everything just stopped. Everything. Um, and I felt like the grief was all consuming. And it was like the last little bit of energy I had was going into that, crying and being sad. And so I just stayed in bed. I don't know, I don't remember for how long, but that's all I could do. So eventually, go see my GP. Lucky GP got to see me at least once a month for most of this year. And my psychologist, lucky her, got to see me once a month for all of this year. But every time I go see my GP, I would be crying, very much like now, but maybe with some more hysterics involved. And I always felt overwhelmed. And after my fourth visit to the GP, every visit she gently suggested getting a neurodiverse uh, assessment, so ADHD and ASD. And the first time I was like, no, what are you talking about? Why would I bother? And the second time I was like genuinely, why? Like, what would be the point? It's not like I would medicate myself. And then every time I'd go and she'd gently say, look, have you done more research around potentially getting assessed? And then the fourth visit, I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's get assessed. Um, because the research that I'd done and what my GP had told me, poor thing, she tells me so much. And unless I research it myself, I don't believe her. Oh, I'd be the worst patient ever. So apparently, neurodiverse women tend to struggle with hormonal fluctuations more so than neurotypical women. And I had a really tough time postnatally, and I was having a really tough time this year going through perimenopause, like a really tough time. So I went through that assessment over a number of months, and I came out the other side with a diagnosis that I wasn't really expecting. So I was diagnosed with level one autism and inattentive ADHD, which I was not expecting. The ADHD, not expecting at all. So during going through this assessment was really hard as well. My husband was in Nepal for the whole month while I was doing the assessment, so I felt really, really alone and I felt really ashamed because I was getting asked all these questions about um, how often I see my friends, how often I communicate with my friends, how many friends do I have? And I was like, well, I only text like my friends like once every few months and I see them like once a year. And I was feeling really guilty. I was feeling like a really crap friend. And then it was things like, um, do you have your own things at home? Like, and like, do you have a favorite, utensil? I was like, yeah, like I have a favorite knife, but that's it. And then, well, yeah, I do have my own spot on the couch. And yes, my family knows not to sit there. And um, yeah, I do all these other things that are like all mine and no one else can touch. And then I was like, oh gosh, I think I could be a really difficult person to live with. And so I thought I was like normal. But I assumed that everyone else was normal like me. And I don't mean it in that normal way. I've always known I'm a bit quirky, but I thought everyone was a bit quirky. Like I didn't think I was different from anyone. Um, but I'll talk more on this later. And you don't need to worry. I'm not going to turn into talking about ASD and ADHD constantly, but I think there's going to be a whole new level of learning to organize and prioritize and find joy and balance in life, understanding that I have a neurodivergent brain now because I feel like perimenopause, all of those organizational skills, coping strategies, masking all of that that was working so well in the years before this have just like I've just pooped my pants. Like nothing's working. Like I write my lists and I look at the list and instead of doing the list, I just feel overwhelmed. So that's not working. And then all my scheduling and everything is just, it's just all turned to shit. And my brain just will not do what it used to do. It is just completely shut shop. So I need to find new coping mechanisms that work and that I feel comfortable with. So no doubt I will share them with you in the future after I've had the opportunity to test them on myself. So that was like a really unusual, gentle slap to the face. And I felt a bit stupid that I hadn't figured it out myself beforehand because my husband recently got diagnosed with ADHD and I did a butt ton of research when he was going through that process so I can understand it better. And I didn't even know that I had ADHD. Yes, I know it presents differently in women, but still, like I had had inklings. But anyways, I could go into this for ages. But anyways, got the diagnosis and now we're moving forward. So then I asked the GP, so the progesterone, estrogen were okay. Like I was not raging out as much as I used to. Like I was throwing some pretty awesome tantrums. Um, Normally I internalize everything, but everything was coming out. So I would throw some pretty awesome tantrums about things that really don't matter. Like my husband had ate too much of the dinner one night, and I had been saving that dinner for my lunches for the week, and had eaten so much that I only had enough for half my lunches. So that warranted a pretty awesome tantrum from me. Now that I look back, I think, oh gosh. Um, so it was sort of working. I still didn't have energy. Um, my brain was still mush. Um, so I went back to the GP after doing some research and asked for some testosterone. So the research that I'd read had said how it could support my energy levels. Someone referred to testosterone as like a battery pack. And oh my goodness, it worked. So it's not like Red Bull or Seven Coffees, like where you get extra energy. The testosterone just gave me back my usual energy. I, so right now I'm on the estrogen patch, the progesterone tablet, and the testosterone cream. So I have all the things on me. Um, but it did start working. And I do have, I'd say like 90 to 95% of my energy that I usually have back. And with that energy came some of my organizational skills. The overwhelm reduced just a little bit, still get overwhelmed daily. My speech and my verbal integrity came back. So I was having a lot of trouble at the ends of the days when I was tired. I was starting to slur my words and get like this kind of lisp. And I was forgetting simple words. Like I was teaching at QT and I was telling them to clean up their stuff after doing prints. And I was looking at what they needed to use, but I could not get the word out of my mouth. It was paper towel. The word was paper towel. Could not get, and there was like 25 students looking at me and I could not get the word paper towel out of my mouth. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to lose my teaching job if I can't say simple words. So I've, a little bit of that has been fixed with the testosterone, but not all of it. So some of it is coming back. So all while this perimenopausal crap was going on, I had managed to find a builder to create the extension on the house that would be my new studio. So it's been a few months of like dust everywhere and like doom piles throughout the house that I just can't manage because I don't have anywhere to go. I can't like put them into a cupboard because there's no cupboard for them to go into. The yard is a mess. There's like doom piles throughout the yard of like building supplies. And even at the studio, because I haven't been spending time there, I've just been dumping and running. So everywhere has just been a mess. But we are almost there. The builder is done. He left yesterday. Ooh. Now it's just up to me to paint it and put the flooring down and then pack up the other one and move in. That feels overwhelming too. That's a next year job, like early January job. But I can start to feel my sparkle coming back. I start to feel that excitement around projects now, not just about the studio build, but clients have spoken to me about some projects coming up in 2026, and I'm excited about them rather than blasé, which was very much this year, blasé about every project. There's still been tough times weaved in throughout this year, but there's also been amazing times. So one of the tough times was an art fair that I signed up for in Brisbane, which I actually got really excited for. There's not been much excitement this year, but this art fair I was so excited for, and it fell through. And I was just sad about it because I was so excited. I also received, and this was just last week, I received 3 emails in the space of 1 hour. One, I had lost a massive job that I'd been shortlisted for, and I was so excited about, and I didn't get it. And I was just so disheartened. But at the same time, I did not have the energy all the time to do it. So it's probably a good thing. I found out that I wasn't successful for a grant application project that we have applied for like 4 times. There's 4 different grants. It's insane. And I was due to paint a mural the next day, and it got postponed indefinitely. So I just was sad. Like I was just flattened and sad. But a little part on the back of me was like a little exhale of, oh, you don't have the energy for it anyway, Sarah. The whole year has been filled with ups and downs. I still managed to have a solo exhibition in March and a number of group shows throughout the year. I participated in open studios with a really successful outcome and a profit, like a really good profit from open studios. I loved that. I was then exhausted for like 3 months after that and didn't step foot in the studio for like 2 months, and all the stuff is still up from open studios. I could totally participate in an open studios tomorrow. I just have to open the doors of the studio and clean up the paint. All the stuff's still up on the walls. Oh, goodness, Sarah. I invested so much time in projects that fell through, like the amount of time and energy and thought that I put into these projects, and they just didn't happen. And that's always quite disappointing. I launched, along with my amazing co-founders, Micah and Kat, we launched Women on the Wall at a UN event in New York earlier this year. As much as I'd love to say I was in New York, I wasn't. I was there virtually, but we still launched it. And that was like a year in the making. And that project is still ongoing. And hopefully there'll be more news about that later. I worked with some amazing students for a whole year at Nambour State College. So that was 1 day a week, with the outcome being the entire exterior of the art block painted. And hopefully for some of the students, a lot of learning and understanding. I hope that I inspired some of them. It was hard. Like I loved all the staff there, and I loved all the art students that I got to work with. But one thing I found out about myself is that consistency, that's not a word that I'm used to. And to consistently show up for this project for 1 day every week, and it wasn't even every week, it was during the terms. So it was only 4 terms, 10 weeks each, but to show up, just I found it really, really hard, that consistency. I've still managed to paint a number of commissions, of which they really connected with the buyers, so that, sparked some energy in me. I've pushed myself too hard and burnt out a fair few times this year. I had the annual Easter burnout, and there's been a few weeks where I've had to not work because I've just completely and utterly exhausted myself. Um, I'm so fortunate in those weeks though that I've always had that 3 months of savings in an account, so that I've been able to eat into that to take that financial pressure off myself. I haven't given myself time to grieve for Lily, and as you have seen and heard, that tears always pop out my eyes when you least expect it. I've still run public workshops and I've still run all the school workshops that were booked, even though one of them was the day after Lily passed and I had to leave the workshop, not leave the workshop, but I had to go into the supply room of the art department because I started crying. So, but I still got the workshop done. The students had no idea, completely oblivious, and they all had their wonderful outcomes and hopefully they learned a lot. But still, that was tough. I still managed to paint live murals at events. Um, I twisted my knee playing basketball and was on crutches for a week and had to move all my projects back 3 weeks. That sucked. It made me realize how vulnerable my body was. And I went back to basketball too early again and twisted it again, not to the point that I did the first time. So I wasn't on crutches, but did scare me enough so that I didn't get to play basketball for the end of the year. But I'm working really hard at the gym to try and get back to that. We adopted two kittens who are like besties and they're really good assistants, Pickle and Peanut. And Peanut sitting right next to me now, and Pickle sitting on the floor next to me. I think that they're going to be wonderful assistants in the studio. I started doing paid influencer projects. This to me is insanely bizarre. And so I feel really guilty that I've not been more present on social media this year. So I don't quite understand how I picked up these projects in a year that I've been less consistent on Instagram. But obviously, I think the consistency in the years ahead have done wonders. I still managed, and I counted this up, still managed to paint 18 murals this year, one of which I felt extremely uncomfortable about. The client was super pushy and pushed the project in a direction that I was not happy with. And I will not be working with that client again. I didn't sign that mural either. I've felt really ashamed about it. So that one you will not see on any of my social media. You will not see it on my portfolio, and I'm just never going to talk about it again. I managed to build the gym and the shed, which withstood an earthquake and a cyclone. I know, crazy. We don't normally get cyclones in Southeast Queensland, but yes, there was a cyclone here earlier this year, and there was an earthquake. Crazy, I know. So yeah, obviously my building skills aren't terrible. Now, I would love to say that I've finished those projects that I started a year ago, but I still have to trim the doors and the windows. So no, I haven't finished. One day, I reestablished my love for teaching. I really love teaching at uni so much. I'm really passionate about it. I find it really energizing when I do it. Apart from marking, it's like so awesome. So I think maybe next year I might put my hand up to teach another class at uni. Hopefully they need people. I've managed to travel to Melbourne, the Gold Coast, Cairns, Singapore, and Thailand. So I still got my travel in, which is awesome, which is like the highlight of my life. I like live to travel. I created a veggie garden that's called Lily's Garden, and it's absolutely growing like crazy, and it makes me so, so happy. So I have so many watermelons. I have one pumpkin. Just ask me. I'll talk about it for hours and hours, and I'm not going to bore you on the podcast with it. I do feel like I've hardly created anything for me this year. I don't think I've painted one painting for me this year. It's always been for clients or for a show, or there's been nothing that I've really done for me. But this is going to change once the studio is downstairs and it's a lot more accessible. And I've managed to pick the podcast back up with some level of consistency, which is amazing. I thought that dropping all my marketing, dropping the social media, dropping the podcast, that everything like that would implode my business. I was so scared I was going to lose my business, but it did not. I've still managed to make 6 figures in profit from January to the end, almost end of December. I found a reasonably gentle balance, and I've really evaluated myself quite deeply this year. How I work, what I truly enjoy rather than what I should enjoy. I like working in high energy flurries. So I absolutely smash it out at hit art. That's what I'm going to call it. High intensity interval training for art. It's like where you do like a bunch of projects all at once and you smash them out and then you rest for like 2 weeks. I know that's consistently not very good, and I need to find some better balance in there so that I don't crash in the time off. But that's how I seem to work really well in flurries. I absolutely love teaching at uni. I mentioned that. Um, for a lot of the year, my head has felt like a mess. I haven't felt like I've been able to get it straight or get it working like it used to. So I've started bullet journaling. I already do morning pages, which is the 3 pages of writing in the journal each morning, and I really enjoy that. So jotting down some data each morning in a different journal, the bullet journal, has been quite easy. So to look at well, like what supplements I'm taking, there are so many supplements with perimenopause. So each day noting down all the hormone replacement therapy that I have, whatever supplements I've had, vitamins, minerals, protein intake, and then I track things like physical activity. So what I've done at the gym or what sports I've done. It tracks how many steps I've taken each day. I track my weight because it did get very out of control this year with perimenopause. I did eat more chocolate than I should, but not like to the excess of the amount of weight that I put on. But I've managed to get that back under control. It also looks at my sleep and my energy and my mood. So it's tracking all of these things, and I can step back and look at how my mood and energy and sleep correlate with the days that I do the exercise, or I do take the supplements, or I don't take this, or I eat the right amount of protein. And so all that data will help me clarify what's going on with me when it feels like a lot of the time my head is just like out of control. So I do art business like I do high intensive training. That's probably my number one takeaway, and not consistently. But I feel really positive for 2026. I've done a huge amount of work in 2025 on myself, physically, mentally, experimenting with my business, experimenting with marketing, experimenting with supplements, with HRT, with balance, with special interests, with different ways to rest. And you know what? Even with that lack of marketing for my business and that lack of social presence and the shutdown of the podcast, even with all of that, it all worked out fine. It worked out fine, financially fine. I feel comfortable with the business. So next year, I'll have this new studio at the home. I'll have space and time to paint more, to run workshops from this space, which is really exciting with an aircon on us. Um, all my things will be in one area as opposed to now where they're like scattered across my trailer, my studio, my house, my car. Um, I have 3 mural projects booked for next year. I have a project in Indonesia later in the year booked. I want to participate again in open studios, but now in my new space. I've put my hand up to teach more classes at university. It's really enjoyable, and it also takes some of that financial pressure off. I have a nice balance of HRT at the moment that has helped me feel like me again. Um, I actually quite like the blunt to the point version of me that's somehow come through during perimenopause. The podcast will continue in this format for a little while. Coaching is still a love of mine. I love the accountability and the community that we've built. And I feel like next year, the year of the horse, is going to be majestic, just like horses are. So I feel like this year's been mayhem, and I feel like I've felt like I've lost me during this process, but I feel like I have the opportunity to build a new me with a better understanding of what I truly want. So, moving forward, I feel like 2026 is the year. It's going to be amazing, and I feel my sparkle and my optimism is back. So I hope this has given you a little bit of clarity as to the shit show that was 2025 for me. I'm hoping that I can be a lot more positive in the next year. If I can't, that's okay. I'll manage because I've proven to myself that my business doesn't need me to be pushing the accelerator all the time for it to thrive. It managed to thrive on its own. I just showed up. Okay. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your year. I hope that you have a great Christmas ahead and you give yourself some time to rest and rejuvenate. And don't forget your fun creative projects. And I'll see you next time.